of Wax, where we review records that we think are worthy of your time. Today we are talking London black metal punk outfit Final Dose and their latest record, Under the Eternal Shadow. Um, great, great mixture of hardcore and black metal, Mike, would you say?
Yeah, man, definitely. It's a good. It's and it is a real mix as well. It's not. I don't think there's. It's more of one thing with some flavors of the other. I feel like this band is straight down the middle with it, John. Straight whoosh down the middle there. You've got black metal on one side, hardcore punk on the other, and they're bang straight down the middle.
Kind of like this setup we've got going on. I'll be the black metal side, you be the punk side,
Yeah,
and
and there's Final Dose, that little gap down there.
yeah, that's exactly where they live. That's where the magic happens. They are a relatively new band, aren't they? I think they only kind of formed within the last 5 years or so. I think this is their second album, but this is definitely a like great mix of hardcore punk and black metal in equal measures. In a record that is just a kind of 25-minute ball of energy and evilness and power, I'd say. How did you feel about this record?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it did what it set out to do perfectly. Um, I think you mentioned the album length there, and I think that probably comes from the hardcore element, maybe more than the black metal side,
Yeah.
for it to be that. But that was the right way to go, because I think you start adding more time onto that. I think a lot of the songs would then get lost in the mix of how long it is and things like that. I think what did you say was 10 songs? It was 10, wasn't it?
10, yeah.
Yeah, like 10 songs, 23 minutes. That's a perfect length for an album like this.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be picky, three of them are kind of interlude in a way. But I
Even
think
better.
even better, yeah. I completely agree. The album like this does not need to be like an hour long. You're going to get bored. You're going to
Ugh.
be like,
What albums do though?
what albums need to be an hour long?
Yeah, not many.
Not many. There are a couple, but not many.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dark Side of the Moon, something like that.
yeah. Something
I know what you're.
something
Do you know
proggy.
what I know? I know what you're thinking. Can I tell you exactly what you're thinking?
Go on.
You're thinking Opeth.
I wasn't actually.
Yeah.
It's actually a record that we've got coming up reviewing.
Oh.
So just
Oh,
stick
what?
around.
Have
So
I listened to it yet?
probably not, knowing your
Oh
professionalism.
God, it's gonna be an hour long. Oh
Subscribe to
fucking
find
hell.
out what we talk about. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think this talking on the interludes. I think they're sort of placed perfectly on this record to sort of break up. Not that you're getting bored of the kind of music on display, because it is quite straight when they do their kind of more classic songs. They are straight. They don't ever really do anything outside of the realms of like black metal and punk. It's quite standard in that sense, but their introduction of like interludes to sort of break up that flow really came at the right point, would you say?
I'd say it also elevated the album as well, because
Yeah,
it showed that they're willing to try something different within it as well, and shows that there's scope within the band to do that type, add that sort of type of music to it. It's kind of, there's elements of dungeon synth, there's kind of almost power electronics in places as well, um, and you've got like, almost kind of harsh, industrially noisy parts too. Um, and you're right, they almost came kind of, there'd be two or three songs, then a break, two or three songs, then a break, two or three, then the end, which was the same sort of thing. And it kind of split the album up almost into chunks in a way, and
yeah.
it worked very well.
Did you have a kind of favorite chunk, so to speak?
Favorite chunk? Well, I thought the opener, Eternal Winter, was the perfect one of the album to start with. I really liked, because you know how it's kind of on the sort of, not stabs, but they just do like the cymbal ring outs whilst hitting the chords, and then it goes in on the blast, but it actually goes in slightly early.
Mm,
You expect him to do one more round of it before it goes in, and then they go in, and I found, the more I listened to the album, the more I realized how how important the vocalist is to this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of straight up in what he's doing, but his execution of it and just where he places his vocals and things like that
Yeah.
is really good. And it took me way into the album to actually really appreciate what he was doing with that. That it wasn't just kind of your standard
Well, he's
guy
got
from the pit doing the screaming, you know?
yeah, he's got that kind of harsh, like almost a bit higher register, throaty black metal
Yeah,
vocals. He in that first track, Eternal Winter, he introduced these kind of there's a couple of like howls as well that sort of
yeah.
ring out that are really cool. Um, then there's a vocal that I want to talk about, Mike.
I know the one, yeah, because I want to talk about this vocal.
That they sort of introduced by track 3, Rite of Spring. I mean, the song starts off, you've got this kind of a bit more slower, it's a bit more black metal in their approach. It's kind of atmospheric and
Yeah,
slower. And then it breaks into this kind of like drum and bass section that it kind of feels almost like akin to something. It's like a circle pit you could imagine going on.
yeah.
Um, then they bring in this vocal that I put down, and I mean this with the greatest respect because I loved this vocal, but that he sounded like a
Oh,
drunk.
sure.
He sounded like a drunk guy coming home from the pub,
Yeah.
and I loved it. What was your take on it?
I kind of had a similar vibe to this because it was like I heard it and I sort of found it funny,
Yeah,
but I liked it, and
yeah,
I liked that he did it because I'm like that stands out to me, and again it's one of those where it's like they've done this album, they've decided right, you know, they're not gonna just conform. You can easily just conform and leave out shit like that.
yeah.
But I think when you do put something in like that, it's a bit of a risk, and
It is a bit of a risk, and
yeah,
but do you know what is good about it is that it kind of makes those because he only does it twice, I believe,
yeah,
and they make those songs stand out and like that each song has like a slight nuance or subtlety that makes it individual, but like the scope isn't broad. It's like
no.
it is literally black blackened punk, hardcore punk, but like it's the nuances and the kind of subtleties in between each song that kind of make it each one unique, which I think works really well, man.
Yeah, man, definitely. And I think it could be one of those vocals that if he did a lot of it, it could go
You
the other
you
way.
don't
Do
want
you
to
know
hear
what I
more.
mean?
You don't want to hear more of it.
I mean, I can hear a little bit more of it, but have you noticed he only does it in very when he
Sh-
does it, it's very brief.
Yeah.
It's very. I can't. Can you imagine trying to hold that
Do
and
you
do a whole verse like it?
do you think it's brief because he wanted more of it and the band were just like, I don't know
Can you
about
imagine like the studio outtake and he's done the
yeah.
whole song like that? Right? Yes, I think we should do a little bit of it, but yeah,
The band have
we
popped
do
out
another
for
take.
they popped out for a fag and he's like,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
I've got an
He's
idea.
like, right. Don't tell anyone, but I'm gonna have another go.
Yeah, I think there's one of the what one was it? I think it was yeah, Wretched is where the kind of vocal that kind of vocal makes a return, track 6, and
Yes,
I think that's the last time you hear of it.
I think it's only those two songs he does it in.
Yeah. But then I think from there on you've got the breakup of Funeral March, which is like it's the interlude, which is quite a kind of generic
Hmm.
chord progression, but it's like evil and it breaks up the album well. Then it goes into possibly my favorite song on the record, which was Locked in the Black Dungeon. It had that sort of there was like a slower intro that introduced a sort of like chorus flange kind of crunchy lead that was picking out
Yeah,
these chords that sounded almost a bit post-punk in sort of production, um, with this kind of like despair like vocal going on, and I thought that this song experimented with a lot of like tempos and genres within the scope of what they were doing, and there was like even a solo at the end with like pinch harmonics in it which were just
yeah. It's a
completely
good solo.
yeah, it
It's a
was
decent solo.
short and sweet. And I almost kind of it was the longest song on the record as well, and I almost kind of want to know where that came in their writing process. Like, I wonder if they're gonna maybe be a bit more experimental going forward, or like, it'd be quite interesting to know.
It did feel like a progression from the other songs, didn't it?
It did. It did. It was quite a bit different in a way, like without standing out, but it was kind of the standout of the tracks.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it was probably my favorite song on the album as well. And I would like to hear what they do next, and if they do kind of go a little bit more down this route. I mean, it'd be kind of cool to do more stuff like that, but mix in a bit more of
Singing.
hardcore
All right.
and the speed into those parts almost, within the songs more,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
some of those moods. Like, in fact, I thought vocally he was excellent on this song in particular.
Yeah.
As you said, there was more despair, more anguish in his voice, and I think because the guitars and stuff were a little bit less kind of wall of noisy type thing, they were more picked out. There's a little bit more clarity in there. The vocals kind of shone through even more, and you could kind of pick out a bit more of what he was doing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think that probably was the best song. It was the one that stuck out to me anyway. The one that I like when listening to it, I thought, oh,
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was the kind of intro as well that kind of made it stand out because it was a bit slower. How did you feel about the last song? It was kind of like it was a kind of like a noise sample that went into this sort of like acoustic with the kind of like echoey vocal, kind of something you could imagine kind of Converge doing, like a secret track or like an end of an album.
To me, it kind of just felt like what it was. It felt like an easy outro to put on the end of an album like this.
Yeah,
It worked in ending the album well, but I would say out of the interludes, it was the one that I was least
cared
bothered
less
about.
about. Yeah,
But I felt like, to be honest, like the way it happened in the album as it comes in from Revenge, it it almost felt like it was part of the ending to the song Revenge. Do you know what I mean? And it did kind of have that it kind of gave you that feeling of like, right, this is ending. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah. It did.
So I
Yeah.
think it did it job. I think it did its job very well.
And then I guess lastly, I just want to talk about the kind of production on this because one thing that they've done well, well, my take is that they've kind of brought in that kind of hardcore element of recording where it sounds almost like it sounds like they're just in a room playing it live. Like you've got the feedback. I think track two, they sort of go from track one into track two with like just a cymbal count in, and it sounds like they're all sort of still in the session, like carrying that on, which gave it that kind of punk aesthetic. What was your take on it?
I thought the production was great, man. I thought it was. I thought it again. It kind of straddled the good things about like a raw hardcore production and the good things about a raw black metal production. In fact, actually, the production sort of reminded me a little bit of maybe First Wave, like a bit like early Bathory or something as well.
Mm,
It had that kind of thing to it as well, which again, I love that. That's such a charm to an album like this. It's one of those when you hear it, and it's quite difficult to date it, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
You could be forgiven to thinking it came out 30 years ago or whatever. I mean, I know obviously not musically because if they released this that long ago, they'd be
huge.
absolute trailblazers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But production wise, anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nice. I think we're quite aligned with our thoughts on this then. I think this is definitely worth checking out, like if you're into kind of more aggressive hardcore or like black metal at all. This is definitely worth your time. Even if you're just into like kind of more evil heavy music, this is definitely one you should check out. Um, any final words, Mike, before we call this one?
No, not from me.
Lovely. We put out videos every Wednesday and Friday reviewing the kind of albums that we think you should check out because why not? That's what this platform is here for. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave us a comment what you thought about this record, and we'll catch you in the next one.